Hi, and welcome to Rise with Video. I'm your host, Robyn Unwin, and I talk with women business leaders who are raising their profile and visibility through media and video. I ask them to share their top 5 tips, challenges, or learning lessons as they rise and have more of an impact with their message. We'll talk video tech, but we'll also talk about the inner game of video and building our capacity to show up powerfully and visibly as women in business. So welcome to this episode of Rise with Video. Today I'm sitting down with my friend Georgee Low, who is a business strategist and coach who I've had the joy of working with on quite a few projects over the last few years. I love this about Georgie's why. It's to inspire others to take action to create the life they really want. And she truly walks the talk. Georgee creates adventure experience trips for high-performing leaders all over the world. And I was really looking forward to shooting the video for an adventure tour to Nepal last year that unfortunately she had to postpone due to the pandemic. But really one of the things I love most about Georgee is her curiosity. If she wants to know something or share something with her clients, she'll just seek people out and connect with them. So she has met some fascinating leaders in her travels, and she really does stretch herself to be more visible. So that's what we're going to dig into today on this episode of Rise with Video. Hi, and welcome in, Georgee. I am so glad you're here, and thanks for jumping in for this interview and sharing some of the stuff that you've learned in your rise with video, because we've known each other for a long time now and have done a number of video shoots together over the years. And so I just love seeing the evolution of your business and also the evolution of you stepping out and really making your visibility work for you in a way that does work for you. And I know that that's some of the wisdom that you're going to be sharing with us. So welcome in.
Thank you. I'm super happy to be here. Always happy to chat with you. Like I say, we've known each other for a long time now. So it's super cool. I love these conversations.
I know, me too. Well, let's get straight into it, because I know that some of the stuff that we can connect over is going to come up in this interview. So one of the things that you start with, and this is one of the reasons I'm taking your Business Builders Bootcamp, is because you start with being consistent. So tip number 1 that you have is be consistent. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, Georgee, and how that's helped your rise in visibility and in impact?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's that consistency piece that keeps me going. So as long as I just do one little thing every single day, or, if I'm wanting to practice video or get more visible and things like that, it's like, I have to do it every single day, even if it's a tiny step, even if it's only a little bit of it, but it has to be consistent. Because for me, if it's not consistent, odds of me continuing it are like 0 to none, just not happening. So
what are some of the things that get in your way of the being consistent? I'm thinking about some of the mental tapes, because we've all got them. And I know for me, it is this fear. I've got this 80s fear of like, I don't have control over this, that that it's going to be out there and the whole world's, that I don't have control. So what are some of the things that come up for you?
So I think this happens for a lot of us, right? Where we think, oh my gosh, I'm going to make this video and I'm going to put it out and everybody's going to see it. And the reality is, most likely, no one's going to see it, especially when we suck, right? So I always just tell myself that the only people who's actually going to see this is probably my mom and maybe my daughter and a couple of friends that kind of think I'm awesome anyway. So no one's actually going to watch this. And so then it just at least gets me to do it. And then the other thing I find for me, because I can often get really overwhelmed, where it's like, there's too many pieces of this thing that I have to put together. There's too much to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know where to start. So if I'm feeling too overwhelmed, I know that I'm not going to do anything. It's kind of like that analysis paralysis or whatever the saying is. And So I'm like, okay, I need to get it out of my head, just written down somewhere on a whiteboard, on sticky notes, somewhere, but out of my head so that I can keep moving. But often if I feel like there's just too much to do, I'll get stuck. And then of course, then the voices start in my head. Well, you don't know what you're doing anyway. You don't know what you're going to say. You're going to sound stupid. You bobble your head too much. Everyone's going to think the head's going to fall off your neck. Like all of these things, right? And so I just have to be like, okay, no one's going to see this anyway. So
Well, this is a perfect segue into the second thing that you have. And I've actually used this a few times in terms of developing my own way of working with my own natural rhythms. And I love it because there's two components to this, but I'll start with the tip. Your tip is to hack your own system to get it done. And I love that because part of, I think what you're meaning there is you have to know yourself in order to develop a system that will work for you. But, you know, you alluded to that in terms of, you know, just do whatever will work to get you out there and doing and being consistent with it.
Absolutely. I think it's probably one of the best things that's actually worked for me is really just, yeah, hacking my own system. What do I know is going to work for me? Even if it's completely against what everybody says you should do or how you say, you know, you're supposed to do it. But if I know me well enough, then it's like, what do I need to do for me to know that it's going to work? So for instance, Patty, my business partner, and I, we decided to do a series of YouTube or live shows, basically, when the pandemic started. And so we both knew that when we had tried to do video before, just like recording a video, we never did it. We sucked. We couldn't get it right. We stumbled over our words, but we knew that, oh, everything, right? So we thought if we go live, we'll do it. And if we have an audience, we'll show up. So all of our videos we just did live because we knew then we would do it and that was really the point of it. So it's finding ways to hack your own system for how you'll get things done. And I was actually just this morning, I was talking to someone and I'm decided to do a newsletter. And so I was working on the autoresponders and I was like, I created the first one and the second one comes out in 3 days. I know myself well enough to know I'm not going to sit down and write the whole sequence, but guaranteed is as long as the first one's ready, someone signs up, I'll get the rest done. Right. And so I give myself a break instead of being hard on myself and like, I have to have this thing perfect. I have to have all the pieces in place. I know me and my system works well with when the deadline appears, I'll do it. Or if I need it to do live, I'll do it.
And that system might be the kiss of death for somebody else who has a different way of working things, but it would be the kiss of death for you if you tried to do it in another way. And, you know, knowing you, I can just see the whole waste of time that would be to set things up because you change your mind as you go through. You have different things you want to communicate as the course or the program unrolls and as the participants have different needs as well. So that makes such sense.
Exactly. And I think that's a good point too, actually, is just because I do things that work for my system and my way of being. And then that's why I think it's so important for people to figure out who they are. And my way is definitely not going to work for everybody, just like someone else's way doesn't work for me. So you're right. It really is this kind of twofold thing of know you and be okay with you and then hack you, basically.
Yeah, that two-pronged thing, because if you don't know yourself well, then I think that's actually where, you know, I got into this a little, I know myself really well, but I did get into this a little bit last year where I started looking, because I don't know the digital marketing world as well. It was new to me when I was getting in there, the whole Facebook advertising. And when I didn't know what I was doing, I tended to lean on other people's like templates and ways of doing things that were not me. And that was the kiss of death. I not to overuse that metaphor, but you know, doing it somebody else's way did not work for me and almost took me out, you know, in the sense of like, this is not fun. Like I'm not feeling aligned with my message. And thanks to you, we've kind of dialed that back in. But I think that, you know, part of that, it really does bounce back on knowing who we are, knowing what our values are, and doing that deep inner work that you do with clients.
Such a game changer.
Yeah. And, you know, this kind of it hits on the next thing, because it really is important about the inner conversation. Your next tip is to listen to your inner conversation, and particularly around visibility, around, you know, knowing who we are as women and knowing that we're vulnerable to some of these, you know, body image attacks before going on video. Talk a little bit about how this, you know, how this reflects on your rise with video and knowing your inner conversation.
For sure. Because for me, I find if I don't sort of, if I'm starting to procrastinate about something or I'm putting it off, like especially with video and putting, kind of yourself out there, like in video where people are looking at you, and we start having these conversations of, oh, I'm not skinny enough. Oh, I'm not this enough. Oh, my hair's too fuzzy, or all of these things. Oh, my laugh lines are too deep, or I don't know, like all of the things we start.
Oh, we'll invent them. What we invent stuff that's not even there.
That no one would notice ever,
Right?
But us. Oh, my left nostril's too bigger than my right nostril. Like who knows these things? Nobody.
And when I lean back and laugh, you all see them.
Exactly. Or I have 3 chins when I do this kind of stuff. And I start having this stuff becomes the forefront of the conversations that I'm having with myself. So if I don't stop and just go, hang on a second, like let's do a check-in on the words and the conversations I'm having with myself. And is this true, for one? And am I just replaying a conversation that someone who maybe doesn't even really matter all that much anymore has said to me, and I just refusing to let it go, And it's like, back that stuff up, like just stop the train and let's start having a conversation that's actually true and actually real. And I think the reality is, I think there's a quote or a thingy, a meme thing or something on this, where it's, someone is always going to be younger, older, skinnier, fatter, prettier, uglier, always. There's always going to be something, because we are individually human, and we all have different things that we like, don't like, all of that kind of stuff. So I have to start having conversations with myself about, why am I doing this and who am I doing it for? And it's like, I need to remind myself of who I am, what's important to me, really sinking back in and connecting with my purpose and my values and what really, really matters. And when I do that, then some of these things that actually stop me, especially on a physical level of wanting to get in front of a camera, they disappear, because I realize I'm doing this for something bigger than myself. And I need to remind myself of that conversation with myself so that I can move forward. But sometimes I listen to that not so good voice in my head, and it's like, all right, back that stuff up.
And, I love that the tip that you have is listening to your inner conversation, because you are honoring it by hearing what's going on. I think sometimes I actually see some of my clients, and for sure myself, I get into trouble sometimes when I figure I got this. And then I go into a situation where it's maybe a bigger audience than I was expecting, or there's way more tech and lights than I might have expected on the set. And then I think, I don't have this. And so, listening to the inner conversation in a way that really, really works for me, I think is super solid. And I do love, I'm actually going to put this reference in the show notes, because I still use this as a tip for people going on camera ahead of time, is Amy Cuddy. Remember, she does the Superman pose things where, being physical with your energy before going on screen. But I also do one with clients where I'll do a meditation with them, and I get them really grounded and remembering, this is bouncing ahead a little bit. We both have here into, talking about purpose and your why, and why, what you're doing it for and who you're doing it for. But, doing that meditation. So that's the inner conversation that you're listening to, rather than thousands of people are going to see this, and whatever the inner conversation actually is, and just to shut that voice down and replace it with something that's a little bit more grounding and a little bit more moving you towards your authentic and real message, rather than your inner crap.
So true. And it even goes back to that hacking your own system, right? It's like, if kind of before you get into a situation, especially if you walk in, you're like, oh no, I wasn't expecting all of these people or all of these lights or those things, having those systems in place where yourself well enough where it's like, okay, this is where I'm going to pull out that meditation out of my pocket, and I'm going to do that because I know this really works for me. So here I go, because once that voice starts going, and I think it's important to acknowledge the voice and not just
point. Yeah.
Right. You can't just push it down and ignore it. I think often we try to sort of bypass that too. And I think it's really important to be like, I hear you. You're there. Okay. let's talk about this, you know? But yeah, I don't think it works so well to just, you can for a little while, but I think it's always going to come back if you just try to shove it down.
Yeah.
And it can be simple. Sometimes it's just, okay, Georgie, here you go again. This is really true. What do we need to do? You know, but it's that awareness.
And that's what I meant by when you're in a situation that's new or that maybe you're not prepared for. That's when sometimes that inner voice can come in, and you've kind of done everything to be prepared for it. So it's to acknowledge it, but also to have some strategies in your back pocket so that it doesn't take over and completely run the show, because it can, you know, when you're in fright.
Exactly. Like, I think I'm feeling sick. I have to go now. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Well, I don't even know if this is a segue into your next one, but you know, we have both had this where we've had situations where we would probably want a do-over, or at least a do differently. And so your next tip is embrace the suck. And I even love the lingo of that. That's such a Georgie lingo kind of word, but what do you mean by embrace the suck when it comes to your visibility and being on camera?
I think, and I know I would love to say that it's my word, and I actually think there's a book by it now that I didn't know there was a book by that title till after the fact, but embrace the suck.
Oh, you were the 100th monkey.
Yeah, but when I think about embrace the suck, it's just like, you know what? I'm going to do this video and I'm going to go on, and I'm probably going to be bad at it. I'm probably going to look back at this first, second, 10th video that I'm making, and I'm going to look back when I'm at video 100, and yeah, 1 to 10 is not going to be so good. And I'm okay with that. I'm just going to embrace that I'm going to stumble, that I'm probably going to have a lot of that I'm probably going to look in the wrong place. I'm just going to embrace all the awfulness. I'm going to embrace that I'm actually going to put out a bad video, because the only way I'm going to get better is to be bad. I need to be bad. I need to be imperfect, but I need to do it. So it's just about just embracing almost the humanness of it and doing it anyway. Like,
I love that you said that, Georgie, because really, I don't know of anyone, even people that I've worked with, professional broadcasters, who when they start doing their own videos, create ringers the very first time. Most times, whether it's tech or whether it's their performance or whether it's, you know, the lighting and, you know, anything will be that learning opportunity for the first. I love that you said 10, you know, giving yourself 10. I usually think people really start seeing an improvement after 5. And so I just say, keep on going, keep on going. And that's one of the reasons, you know, you've been in some of my programs, but the video branding bootcamp and just doing like a video sprint where you're out of the gates and you're just, you know, you're not overthinking it. You're just shooting and sharing and posting videos just to get it done in a safe place, none of them going out to the big bad world. But I think that's so important, just to get over ourselves, because we won't if we're waiting for that perfect video. We just won't.
No, we won't. And then we start comparing ourselves to people who have been doing it forever, you know, and we forget that they most likely, like you said, sucked in the beginning too. Like Oprah's first video, first, you know, broadcast, it probably wasn't that great. It's not going to be nowhere near like where she is now. And yet we expect to show up like that, which is not that reasonable for us, really. You know, it's just like.
And I've heard a lot of broadcasters say that the only reason that they are on camera is because they have a team who's there ready and waiting to go, and they have to. There's actually no back door when you're going on camera in that way. And I think we have to almost have that same kind of ethic when it comes to our own self, because it's so easy to just say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll wait for that perfect hair day. But, you know, if you're Gayle King or Oprah, you're going, you know, Nora O'Donnell is not waiting for a good hair day. She's on at 6 o'clock. So yeah, I love that. Embrace the suck, no matter what it is, and just keep going, because it will get better. And it doesn't take 10,000 hours like Malcolm Gladwell says. It only takes, you know, 10 tries, and you will start to see the difference.
You'll start to see improvement. I lose like 100. Let's just do 100. I want to commit to 100.
You're better than that. That's
I'll be
not
better
true.
in 100. But even when I look at like Patty and I think we did 97 or 98 episodes or something like that of our show. And when I look back at the very first one, and then, you know, oh, what worked, what didn't, you know, and oftentimes you think, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. I'm like, nobody liked those ones. We love them. Some of the ones we loved, and people were like, that sucked. I'm like, I really like that, but it's out. You know, but you look at the first one is say next to the 50th one or the 75th one, and you're like, okay, we're kind of getting a rhythm here. We're getting better at this. We're learning the technology better, and technology still screws up. You know, it just happens, but it's just embracing all of that and still doing it. It's that consistency, right? That consistency to just keep going.
And I think one of the things that happens, I talk about this because this transition happened for me. I used to, you know, when I took broadcasting as a young person, the camera confidence thing, I ended up going, putting my tail between my legs and doing PR for 10 years because the camera just freaked me out. Being on camera freaked me out so much. But when I started watching my footage, just when I was doing my editing, and like you say, doing 97 episodes and seeing the difference and watching your performances more from an objective lens rather than a subjective point of view, you just start treating yourself like the talent. Like you would be, you know, saying, oh, I was a little bit long there. Way too many ums and ahs there. But not like I'm a loser or I'm a terrible person, just that I could, you know, improve here and there. So I think it's a way to be a little bit more objective about your performance.
And you never know. And I think embracing the suck too, and kind of usually, especially when you're doing live stuff, you don't know what's going to show up, especially when there's people talking. I can remember we were doing one show and I was doing my part and this guy was just like in the chat, stop saying, you know, stop saying, you know, you're still saying, you know. And then all I could do was be like, you know, and you know, I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's live, right? So what do you do?
And this one's for you, you know?
And I'm like, well, you know, sometimes these things but it's happening and you just embrace it all. And
you either stop saying, you know, on your interviews or you keep saying it and it's part of who you are and it's the way you roll. And yeah, I love that, but you embrace it all.
It's what you do. It's happening.
You know, we've bounced on this one a little bit earlier, but it doesn't surprise me that it permeates all of the conversation because this is really what you do. But your next one is to remember who you're speaking to and remember, you know, who you're speaking to and who you're speaking for. Yes. And I'd love you to talk a little bit about the whole why thing in there, because I know that that's really a big cornerstone of your work. So yes. This is really what pulls us out, isn't it? When we get camera shy or, you know, don't want to go on camera.
Because, and I think it's one of those, you know, often like say before we're getting ready to make a video or you're even going to do a talk and you know it's going to be videoed and other people will see it. I think often if we were to stop and think about who am I actually worried about that's going to see this? Who usually there's one or two people and it's like, oh my God, that's what's scaring us. And often that person, it's a critic or it's someone who's super judgy and it's not actually who we're making this for. It's not who we would actually be speaking to. So I find if I can just take a second and go, wait a minute, who do I think is going to see this that's causing me to freak out? And I'm like, oh, and does that who I'm actually talking to? And it's like, no. So then I remind myself, who am I creating this for? I'm creating this for those who want to hear it. And then when I think about my why, it's like, I'm here to inspire people to take action to create the life that they really, really, really want. That's why I'm doing this. That's who this is for. That little person that's in the background being judgy because I'm saying too many you knows or my hair is flopping around or whatever the thing is that someone might judge me for, this just isn't for them. And that's completely okay. But as long as I can tap back in and realize that if I do this interview, if I do this video, if I make this Facebook Live, and one single person is inspired to take action to create the life that they really, 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 really want, it's worth it. And if I can put myself back in that lane, I'm way less scared. I'm way less afraid because it's almost like I have to do it now. Like I have to stand up there and do this because
it's not about you.
It's not about me. Exactly. It's all for someone else. And when the focus is off me, it just doesn't matter anymore.
I really do think that that is the transcendent thing that will it even more about going on camera and rising in visibility and impact, but really just about having a successful business and making your life or your mission about more than about delivering value and delivering a difference and a mission to people. And,
Exactly.
One of the things I love about working with you, I started, of course, doing your Why workshop through your Decide Your Life program. And, most recently have been doing your Business Builders Boot Camp. And I love how those two things dovetail, because really we're talking about sales and we're talking about like metrics and numbers and all of those things. But, it really does come back to why are you doing it and who is it for, and who is the message to. You want to talk a little bit about how that business thing ties in, because I know that it's not for the faint of heart to do all the visibility rising, running a business, and still keeping your ideal client and your mission and what you're doing for them in mind. So how do you do that?
So for me, like I said, I've been doing the why thing for a really long time. And it was, when I did mine, it was the most transformational thing I'd ever done in my entire life. And it really did cement that thing that I'm doing this stuff, it is not for me, it is bigger than me. And when we focus on being of service to others, helping other people, a lot of the stuff that we get stuck in, it kind of disappears because it kind of becomes a little bit sort of irrelevant, And I think when we look at building a business, it's easy to get stuck in, oh, well, what are people going to think about me if I reach out to them, or if I'm trying to sell my stuff to people? And if we can just shift that a little bit to, what if that person you're so afraid to reach out to actually really, really, really needs your help? Like you could really actually help them. And either you're super selfishly focused on yourself and, oh, I'm so scared, or you can shift that attention to, it's almost my duty to tell them. And then they can choose yes or no. That's totally fine. There's no attachment to them actually buying or not buying or any of that kind of stuff. But it's just like, what if I could help somebody? Like it becomes so not about you and about other people. And I often, we hear people say, fill your own cup, fill your own cup, fill your own cup. And I think that's really important before the hate mail comes in. I don't
know why that saying bugs me so much. It actually kind of grates on my nerves, but yeah, maybe because it's so overused.
I think so. But then I often, at the end of the day, I ask myself, whose cup did you fill today? How many other people's cups did I fill today? Because I also know that when I'm helping other people, like whether it's the boot camp or in the Decide Your Life community or through the why stuff, if I'm helping someone else, that's also filling my cup too, almost more so than if I'm, sitting at home doing whatever, some kind of self-care thing that we talk about when it's filling the cup, which again, it's important. I'm not saying it isn't.
Gotcha, and balance. That's which is another thing that you stand for.
Yeah. But I also think when we start to just focus on other people and outside of ourselves, like for real, all of these things get easier. Building our business gets easier. Being on camera gets easier. We almost look forward to, how can I be more visible? And then when you disappear or, make that a little bit easier, then it's like, oh, I got to take Robyn's course because now I want to make some good videos. Like I want to look good on here and I want to learn how to do these different transitions so that I can serve people better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
connect with them more, connect with the people who want to connect with me, who will like the style of videos that I like and that I like to make. And and my message.
And it's like, it's because I care. So I want to continue to get better and master my skills so that I can. just connect deeper with people. So that literally comes back to my why. Who else can I inspire to take action to create the life that they really, 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 really want? And video is a way to be able to do that, because I think when people can see you and hear you and all of your quirky things, it builds a connection, and I think we actually want to show up as us, because that's what people fall in love with. People always say, how do I stand out? What's going to make me different? You. That's what it is.
Be you. Yeah.
Be you.
Be more
Bring
you.
right? Exactly. Be more you. Bring that to your video and to your visibility. But it's easy to say and not always easy to do.
I think easier to do the more we do it, though. I remember
100%.
how I felt like a goat the first time that I was on Zoom. I didn't know where to look. And years later, we feel differently than we did the very first time that we do something. And I think every part of digital marketing, video, all pieces, the sales process, selling in a feminine way, which is, I wanted to mention the Rise Project, because Georgee is one of the experts participating in it. And one of the things that we will be talking about is really marketing and the sales process from a more feminine centered way, because we've both talked about how much we have this distaste for trying to do marketing in ways that it's not our voice. It's not tactics that we would choose. It's not marketing, ways of marketing that feel good in our bodies. So I love, Georgee, that you're going to be offering some really cool ways and really fun ways of getting our message out there, and in a way that really does work for women.
I'm excited about it, right? It's really fun to see women succeed. I like it. So I'm excited.
Oh, it's your why. It really is. And it's one of the things I think it's so generous, Georgee. One of the things that Georgee does is allows complete access to her during this Business Builders Bootcamp, because, and I love that you said this yesterday, stuff comes up in the middle of the week. It doesn't come up in, just in normal office hours or whatever. But I also love that you said, I'm a big girl. I can let you know if I'm busy. And there's just, there are so many cool ways of doing your business that I'm just learning so much from you, and watching and mirroring. And yeah, I love that we get to share this journey together and learn from each other in different ways. But
so fun.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing some of the stuff that you've done and learned in your being on camera, and also being behind the camera, because I know you've done a lot of producing as well in your show with Patty, and it's so generous of you to share some of this stuff.
Anytime. My absolute pleasure. Like I say, if it helps someone, I'm here. More than willing.
And we will put your links in the show notes below, just to make sure that people can get a hold of you. You have Business Builders Boot Camps intaking, I believe, is it monthly or quarterly, Georgee?
Actually, monthly.
Awesome.
Yeah, they run 90 days at a time, but intake is monthly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I can't say enough about it. I'm loving being in it, and I'm just loving the exercises that you're giving. It's just enough work to just keep me going, but not such that I feel overwhelmed in any way. So to me, that's the perfect balance of an online course. So you're just modeling what I really, what I like to not only consume, but produce. So thanks again for being here, Georgee. And
you're welcome.
We will catch you on the flip side in the Rise Project, when we're out there living our mission for ourselves and for others. So thanks again for being here.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thanks for being here and staying right to the end of this episode of Rise with Video. Keep in mind, I'm always looking to work with committed and conscious women business leaders to help them create quality video brands. So if that's you, check out the link in the show notes and let's book a virtual coffee. You can catch other episodes on our YouTube channel, Rise with Video. And if you like this video, hit like and share it with your friends. Again, thanks for being here, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Rise with Video.